And good morning. If you are joining us to tune in and catch our webinar on audio over IP, you have come to the right place. I'm Kevin Peckham. I'm the moderator. I'm not the presenter today. To the right on your screen, you'll see the presenter, Kurt Howell, who's going to be joining us. And a few words about him in a moment. But first, a couple of things about the webinar to let you know some of the options. So we'll go over some housekeeping matters before we get into the presentation today. First of all, you should know that the presentation is being recorded. So it will be available to your friends or associates if you know people that would benefit by joining us for this and are unable to attend in real time. Why not have them join at their convenience? So this will be posted on the FTW website with links so that they can watch it at their leisure, or you can come back to it and catch some part of it to refresh your memory if necessary. Beyond that, if you have questions during the presentation, simply type them to us. We're using the facilities of GoToMeeting, and in GoToMeeting, you can type us questions. They'll appear on the screen. I'll be the curator of those, and at the end of the presentation, Kurt and I will then address each of those questions that come in. And you can also write to us at Full Compass after the fact, and if necessary, either I'll respond or we'll have Kurt respond to that in writing. And the last item in housekeeping, for our benefit, please complete the survey that comes up at the end. If you exit before you do that, we don't get to hear back from you on what you liked or didn't like. And more importantly, we don't get to hear any suggestions you might have for topics for future webinars. So we're enjoying doing these. We find them very useful internally, frankly. I'm one of the trainers here, and I learn a lot from these things. So I hope you do too. But if you have topics of interest to you, please let us know, and we'll steer our future webinars in that direction. And with that, let's talk a little about today's presentation. This is a meaty one. Audio over IP is very much, I don't even want to say emerging because it's already happened. It's just becoming much more widespread. So audio over IP, and in particular the use of Dante over IP. And our presenter today comes to us from Focusrite. Kurt is the national sales manager for Focusrite, and a company that is very well positioned to talk on this topic. They have been in the game here about as long as anybody. We've been using their Dante products all around our facility to tie studios and control rooms together for audio. And Kurt has a very rich background in that area as well. Frankly, I should point out, as you see on the screen, he's been very involved in a lot of aspects of the industry, including music performance and recording and touring. And so he is in a very well positioned place to tie in some interesting applications for audio over IP and the use of Dante in general. So with that, Kurt, let's hope your microphone works. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine. I hope you can hear me
There he
well too.
is.
Excellent.
Kurt, welcome to the webinar this morning, and thank you for bringing us such an excellent topic. We're always searching for good things to present to customers, and when we talked about this one, I knew this would be right up the alley for a lot of our folks on the FTW side who are involved in doing contracting work and doing installations. So let's talk a little about audio over IP, if you would. I'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. So I'm from Focusrite Pro, and I'll explain the delineation between Focusrite and Focusrite Pro in a couple slides. So let me just start with, I'm going to do some very basic overviews of audio over IP and Dante without boring you that know what it is, and some of you might need an overview. So we'll do that first, and then we'll get into the products that we sell, and then some applications on how we use those products. So if you have any questions, just type them in, and we'll answer your questions toward the end, as you just heard. So what is audio over IP? How can it be used? It can be used in studio applications, education applications, live sound, concerts, anywhere that there's audio being transmitted that you want to save and have a central location. You can use existing infrastructures to send your audio through a very basic encoding and decoding interfaces that is not point to point, but I like to say often A to Z. So you can send it to as many places as you want within 300 feet and up to 6 miles between switches. So it's very, very flexible. What does it replace? It replaces that picture on the right, that massive bunch of analog cables that I took from one of our larger sound companies. That's just an 8x8 interface that probably costs about $1,000 to make or buy. And you can literally replace that with a single Cat5e or Cat6 cable that costs about 18 bucks. That snake does, like I said, 8x8. It's about 30 feet long, whereas a Cat6 cable can be up to 300 feet and can transmit 512 channels bidirectionally on the same cable. So audio over IP is where everything is headed. What are the benefits? Very simple: noise, cost, and distance. A typical MADI scenario or an analog system, every time you get over 20 feet, you need to add some type of amplification to boost the level to keep its full fidelity. Whereas in the Dante domain, using a Cat6 cable, everything stays in first generation and it can go very long distances with high channel count, uncompressed, to achieve what you need. So what is Dante? Dante is a hardware and software-based solution that transports precisely timed digital and audio between devices using standard IP networks. Yes, I can read. So where did it come from? Adoption of Dante started in 2010. We were the second manufacturer to get involved. This is up to 2017. There currently are 200 manufacturers and 2,000 plus devices being added a day to day. This is about as many logos as I can stick on one screen so you can read them, but there's just tons of them. Everyone has gone in the Dante direction. Previously, there were two options. You had AVB and Dante. And about 2.5 years ago, the question was, well, which direction are we going? And there's still manufacturers that are doing AVB, but it really comes down to the difference between security and knowing, who's online and connectivity between a lot of manufacturers. As you see in the slide here, it's not just stadiums. It's small modular units and large stadiums, but it gives you the ability to do level 3 protocol, which is a secure network where I see who is on the network and I can deny or reject anyone that's on that network. AVB uses level 2 protocol, which in the OSA tree is essentially non-detectable. I transmit my audio out. It goes out to the network. I don't know who's on, who's listening to it, who might be stealing my untuned Taylor Swift vocals, or who might be. So if level 3 protocol, it has security, it has the ability to lock zones, and as you're going to hear later on about DDM, Dante Domain Manager, some submask protocols that you can add later on. So as I said, it's not just stadiums, but it also is single user, scalable scenarios. So I can have a small church where I'm just transmitting one signal, a stereo signal, to the broadcast booth and to the front of stage, and it gives me the ability to add as we grow, and have things just immediately connect and find their own clocking source, which Dante takes care of, and just easily connect these things. I typically, when I'm showing someone how to use Dante, they have these big question marks on their forehead, and within minutes of seeing how easy it is to connect, the light goes on and they get it. So it's very easy to use and very affordable, and there's just lots of options that you can try. So I'll give you one example. That we've been fortunate to be the connectivity source at the past 4 Super Bowls. The past 2 were done by a company called ATK out of the California region, and they were able to reduce their time and setup by a day and a semi by not carrying copper snakes and the traditional setup. Now they just roll these units out onto the football stadium floor, connect to fiber, everything pops up, it's pre-set up, and it's just very simple to just connect and move and then remove. It's whether you like the quality of the talent or the audio you heard at the Super Bowls is not the debate. The debate is that it was clear, pristine, and it sounded and worked perfectly and easy to set up. So it's become kind of the standard in live sound around the nation, and Dante's done a really good job. So as I mentioned, it's scalable. You can start with the simple interface, add a headphone box, or add a remote control preamp. It's just easy to build your system. So as you're consulting with someone on their small scenario, Dante gives them the ability to grow this as they grow and as their needs grow. It's not just, well, I buy it now, oh, now I need to do new wiring. No, you just add to, and it uses your existing infrastructure. So what is audio over IP? I already skipped that one, my bad, came up again. It all works on Dante Control. So Dante Control is essentially a dot matrix. It's just a connectivity where you have transmit, which you'll see with my mouse, the transmit are the devices that are connected here, and the receiving devices are here. And I can easily just take a device, open it up, connect some points with my mouse, and we have connectivity. If it turns to a different color and it disconnects, you can click it back on and it's back within seconds. It remembers what's there. It does diagnostics. You can adjust latency between devices. It just gives you a lot of options that makes it so much easier than other audio over IP scenarios. The security that I mentioned, the level 3 protocol, is just it's paramount. You need to know who's on your network. Whereas Dante is level 3 and AVB is level 2, it gives you the ability to know what's happening. It also gives you connectivity to other protocols, such as AES67, where QLAN and Revent and Livewire are using. Um, it becomes a translator between what is a European broadcast standard of AES67 to talk to Dante, so that you can share files and talk back and forth to each other. It automatically finds your clocking. It finds the best clock source, whether you have your own clock you want to use, a house clock, or it has a chip in all of the devices that are Dante enabled that have a clock. It will choose the best source and distribute it through the Dante network and have everything clocking at the same rate. It's very simple to do. It does it for you. You can rename the devices, and it's just an extremely simple way to make sure that everything in the digital domain is not out of sync. The switch requirements are pretty simple. It's not a router, and it's not Wi-Fi, though you can have some devices that speak through Wi-Fi. This is a LAN-based system. We prefer gigabit switches that are non-blocking, quality of surface, built-in power supplies as suggested, and the SG350-10 is probably the #1 switch most people have. Those are like 160 bucks, from FDW. I'm sure that you can purchase them through them. But it's just simple to set up. This is just a picture of some devices that are connected to a switch. The traditional workflow in any system, as we've all done for years, you have a microphone to a splitter that goes to the front of house or to the monitor guy, and it's distributed to where it needs to. It's point to point. It has limitations in distance, but in a small network where you're using a gigabit switch, everything that's Dante enabled is connected to the switch, and everyone has access to everyone else's devices as you deem it necessary. You can go up to 300 feet on a Cat6 cable, or like I said, 6 miles between switches on fiber. And there's many scenarios, as in this slide, that's showing a larger scenario where you have maybe a football stadium that's across campus 6 miles away, connected to a fiber switch that goes between buildings, connected to different performance centers, to education centers. It's glitch-free redundancy, using your existing switches that most universities have in places and most churches already have. So it helps on the expense. And many times that IT budget is separate from your capital purchase for your analog gear, for your Dante gear. So think about that when you're putting together your budgets. It's easy to use. It auto detects. It handles the synchronization. It handles the routing through a dot matrix. And it's just very simple to set up and use as you need it deemed necessary. So I mentioned that Focusrite Pro is a division of Focusrite Innovation. It's a year ago last summer, we decided that most of the users that are using Dante, they're more professionals whose day-to-day life is reliant on this stuff working and having a different level of someone at support to talk to over your solutions. So we set up Focusrite Pro. The 3 lines that we handle are ISA, our transformer-based kind of old school preamps, RedNet, which is our modular systems, and then Red, which is a kitchen sink Thunderbolt Pro Tools HD interface that's doing really well in the post and home studio scenario. So I'm going to go through the Red line quickly. We'll get through the products, and then I'll show you some user cases and some options where you can put these into. The Red series, I said, is Thunderbolt based, Thunderbolt 2, and now a Thunderbolt 3 version. Excellent conversion with remote controllable preamps, headphone outputs, very low latency round trip with your computer, and it's just doing very well. It's low noise, extremely. The specs on these things 5 years ago was considering mastering quality, but everything now is doing 119 dBs of signal to noise ratio up to 122, which is ridiculous. Serious headroom, and these systems just sound good, and they're modular because they have Dante ports also. So I'll go through the 3 options. The 4 Pre is a 58 by 64 interface with Thunderbolt 2. It has 2 mini Digilink ports for your Pro Tools HD guys, 4 evolutionary mic pre's, 2 instrument inputs, 8 outputs. It's just an amazing little box. And you can find out more about that, on our website and on the FDW website. 2 headphone outputs, and it has 32 channels of Dante. So it is modular. I can add other things as my needs grow. Its bigger brother is called a Red 8 Pre. The only difference is it has 8 preamps instead of 4, and it's a full 64 by 64. Everything else is identical the same. You see the DB25, those are Tascam compliant. The Thunderbolt ports, the DigiLink ports. These are great little boxes, guys, that give a single editor or a person that's wanting to play back stems with the Dante network the perfect interface. The newest in this line is called the 16 line. We found that many people just didn't need a bunch of preamps, but they needed connectivity. So this is actually a Thunderbolt 3 device. It's 64 by 64, and everything else is the same, which is, saying a lot, but you still have your Dante ports and your ADAT and your SPDIF and your headphone outputs. And all of them do surround sound monitoring. So I can check on the output tab to connect all of the outputs, and I have control with my diode on the front of the device to control the surround sound monitoring, whether you're doing a small Atmos room or just 5.1 or any of the various formats up to 712, which has been available since the very beginning. RedNet, on another hand, is our modular line. So the Red series, where it's standalone, the RedNet is modular. Each of these boxes does essentially one opportunity, one thing that you want it to do, whether it's converting MADI or AES3 or any of the various options that we have. This is for larger systems. It's the same user as the Red series, but it's the different end of the spectrum. Whereas you have maybe on the left-hand side, a single guy that just needs one connectivity and a little bit of Dante. On the right-hand side, you might have a university or a house of worship that just has tons of connections, lots of Dante devices that you can connect, and they talk to each other. But like I said, just different ends of the spectrum. They're single rack space. All of these have 2 power supplies and 2 Dante streams, which I'll point on the next slide. And I'm going to pop through the different devices that are available. The A8R is an 8x8 interface with 2 channels of AES, word clock, and it goes up to 192 sample rate. And as you see with my mouse, we have 2 power supplies and 2 Dante streams. It's got word clock and loop sync built into it, and the DB25 cables on this. I like to call this double bacon, double cheese because it just does everything. Its big brother is a 16 by 16 with 2 channels of AES. So like the 8x8, 8x8 is really a 10 by 10, and the A16R is really an 18 by 18 because of the AES ports. Everything else is the same. The Tascam compliant interfaces for DB25, the word clock input and output, and the power supplies and the redundant Dante are all built in. If you're broadcasting or you're doing live sound, you have to have redundancy. You cannot have your system go down, and these are designed specifically to take care of those needs. The D16R is AES3. There's applications in live sound where you need lots of AES3, whether it's a line array or delay towers that you're dialing in. This is probably my #1 selling live interface for getting AES to a lot of places, or people that have older systems that don't necessarily have a Dante port, but they might have AES ports. So you can get that into Dante and then add a lot of connectivity. It also has sample rate conversion on the input. So if your playback engineer or your drummer just has some lower sample rates, you need to convert them up to the sample rate of the session being used or the broadcast scenario. This will do that. The D64R is our MADI to Dante box, and this does sample rate conversion in and out. It's used primarily for Atmos rooms and live sound where they don't have a Dante console, but they have a MADI card. This is done very well, and it's very affordable, probably in the price range that's way cheaper than you might expect. It's about $2,400, but it's a great interface for getting MADI to Dante. Once you're in Dante, you're not limited by the MADI limitations of cable length. So you can actually just keep adding these and expand your cable length and then more Dante connectivity, 64 channels at a time. The HD32R is our Pro Tools protocol, the proprietary protocols that Avid has for connecting with the MIDI DigiLink cable. And this does 32 channels. It's probably mostly used in post houses to replace a lot of the Avid interfaces and go to the Dante protocol. Every time you need 32 more channels, you just add another box. You can max out systems and have connectivity all over your post house or where you're using Pro Tools. That's the DAW protocol, the HD side. The MP8R was a game changer. It's a remote controllable preamp that is required by the NFL films and NFL stadiums. It has the characteristic of not distorting when it clips, which is very rare in digital devices. There's so much headroom on this device that when your artist or your singer or your talent spikes your meters, you don't get a digital pop, which is, you don't want that. So it has a splitter built in so that it's 8 in by 16 out. So you can have two different output levels, typically used where the front of house might get the first 8 channels of Dante output, and maybe the monitor guy's getting the second outputs, or the in-ear monitor guy, or the post guy's getting that. They have adjustable outputs through DSP, so you can keep the levels automatic. It has phantom power, variable inputs, and it's remote controllable. So I have 4 ways I can adjust the levels. On the front panel with my hand touching each preamp, not encoder. It has the mouse capabilities in RedNet control. Inside of Pro Tools, it uses Avid pre-protocol. And then through a Systex dump, you can actually use a keyboard that has Systex Connect on it, and you can adjust the preamps there. Really excitable, and there's some more things coming out with that in the future. But this has been a game changer, and if you saw a Foo Fighters show, or you've gone out to see many live concerts where sound quality is imperative and they need a lot of connectivity, this is the preamp people are upgrading to. The AM2 is our headphone box. Drop this anywhere in your network, and you've got 2 channels of playback and headphones. If you're at a church, this is great for your choir to just be able to hear what's going on and monitor. About every live sound guy I know carries this in his bag, so they can walk up on stage, plug it into the network, and just grab a couple channels and monitor and say, oh, that's where that's coming from. It's just a great diagnostic tool to have, and it's built like a brick house. It's got a mic clip on the bottom, a Kensington lock on the side, very good metal red format that has some weight to it. It has power over Ethernet. So if you don't want to carry around the wall wart that it has, you can plug it into a PoE network and it'll be powered. So this is done very good for headphone guys. Its big brother came out about a year ago, and it has the #1 request we have from the AM2 is, gosh, I wish you guys had 2 preamps. Well, here you go, X2P, 2 remote controllable preamps, 2 channels of playback, 2 channels of mic inputs or line level inputs. It's got the mic clip on the bottom, the Kensington lock on the side. Both of these headphone boxes do 118 dBs. They come with a 6 dB pad that you can turn off in RedNet control. They are extremely loud and probably the best sounding headphone boxes I've ever heard. Not just because I work with, they're just very warm and analog-y sounding. Most people that use it are amazed at the clarity. They are PoE, so it makes it easy for accessing. And probably the #1 use of these is in churches to replace the band pit, that snake you have there, and then a separate headphone box. You can literally replace both of those items by having a kind of DI that has the ability to play to their speakers, to have a more me knob. It has remote controllable access that can be turned off. So if you don't want the talent adjusting the mic levels, you can do it remotely, and you can also leave that on. So it's a great box, and it lists for $899.99. The PCIe card is something that if you need tons of I/O, like you're working on a large format console, a big Neve or a big SSL, and you need to connect to a lot of converters, this is a box most people grab. It works inside of a Windows machine, as all the RedNet stuff does. And it also can work in a Thunderbolt chassis if you're on a Mac. And it just gives you 128 channel connectivity with redundancy. Sells for $1,000, and it's a great card for just lots of connectivity. Everything now works on 2.3.2 RedNet control. So this is something you'll put on your Windows or your Mac machine, and it will access all of the Red and RedNet devices, giving you the ability to save tabs per what device I'm listening to, follow sample rates, do tons of diagnostic tools. There's a little wrench on every window that when you click on it, it will open up a sub-menu that shows you all the different things that you can change, from output metering to sample rate conversion, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we have Vegas mode. So you click on the ID, and now the unit flashes. So you have little flashy lights, and it's very cool. It will tell you when you need a firmware update, whether you want to update all your devices or just the individual device. All 10 people can be on the same network looking at RedNet control on their laptop and be looking at different tabs depending on what their needs are. So it's just a great tool to add to your Dante control for connectivity to the RedNet devices. We get to our third brand, and it's called ISA. It's our oldest line, and it started back with the original Forte console. The ISA 10 is just a transformer-based Lindell input transformer, warm analog sound. The console you see there were 10 of them made. They cost $1 million each, and the heat they put off is over 110 in Fahrenheit. It's extremely hot, and you can dry shirts on it. But it had an amazing sound. I've been fortunate to have recorded on one a couple times, and they are just amazing, clean. And if you can find one and get to record on one, do yourself a favor and do it. It's very good sounding, and it's where the air feature came from. There used to be an EQ button you could just push, and it would put a little half dB bump at about 4.5 kilohertz to just add some air to the microphone that you're using. Real quick EQ, and that's on the red line and in our ISA line. The range are pretty straight ahead. There's an ISA 1, an ISA 2, the 428, the 828, and the 430. Now, just a little bit of sad, but yet good news on the back end. The ISA 828 and the 430, if you can find one, good luck. They cannot be made anymore until next year, where they've been redesigned. They're amazing sounding. If you go to a Taylor Swift tour, there are 64 of these ISA 828s doing all the sound, even though they have a digital console. They sound great. There's just lots of places that have these, and there's not many left, but we will have out new versions next year. So I look forward to that. And they have digital cards you can add, which a little bunny tells me that we'll have a Dante card in the future too. Be nice. So what is all the cases where we can use all this stuff? What is Focusrite Pro with audio production or house production? It's the ability to take a simple switch and expand a small studio and have isolation in rooms you never could access before because of distance, or you just couldn't get that far, or you just couldn't access through a wall. You can use your Ethernet, your RJ45 jacks, and just connect and have amp rooms in the kitchen, amp racks that you're sharing around, access your garage, or if you're at a church, access buildings you couldn't get to when you had spill and overflow. That's what Focusrite Pro products give you. They give you accessibility. So on our website, we have some diagrams that you can essentially look for what meets your needs. This is an example of a home studio where you might have one of our red interfaces connected to a trash can, connected to a switch, and now you have vocal booth accessibility, live room accessibility, all easily just by connecting a box. Dante auto configures it, and you're transporting audio both directions. In a studio scenario where you might have insert points and outboard gear, using the 16 line and the insert points that are built into it, you can now connect outboard gear and share it wherever you want to. In the broadcast scenario, this is just an example. In the broadcast world, most radio stations are using Wheatstone and AES67 compliant devices. Because of all of our RedNet devices are AES67 compatible, you now have the ability to mix and match Dante with AES67 and be able to use a device that's very easy for your talent to understand. The quality is studio quality. It's built like a brick house, and it just gives you a bunch of connectivity that you might not have had when staying in just one format. House of Worship is one of our largest growing kind of connectivity opportunities. At the level 1 churches, which is 2,000 larger, RedNet has done exceptionally well, where you have staff that understand how to set it up when you're connecting multi-rooms. This is a picture of Willow Creek, where they have multiple stages just like this in multiple buildings, all connecting to one central station where they're mixing sound, post, and all the ability. But there are lots of churches that are doing this. So level 1, we've done excellent. The largest growing area is the 500 to 2,000 seat facilities, where you typically have volunteers, but once it's set up, the volunteers can easily use this stuff and be able to connect and take care of the number one problem that happens twice a year. And that's Christmas and Easter, when an extra 1,000 people show up and you don't know what to do with them. By opening up your gymnasium or a conference room somewhere else, you can put your overspill, connect one of our X2Ps or AM2s right to the wall that shows up in your network, and you're able to transmit audio right to that facility, first generation, and not have to worry about running a snake out across the lawn to other facilities. Soon, when Audinate adds video to that, you'll be able to do both, but right now it's just audio. So it really has opened up the House of Worship level 2 protocol, level 2 area. This is a diagram of a house of worship where I have a digital console connected to some stage amps, connected to AM2s for headphones, to the D16R, to the line arrays, to overfill rooms. And this is ideal for just helping you in your house of worship scenario. This new diagram is showing how you would take care of that band pit that I mentioned. So you have a Dante console that goes to where the musicians are sitting. Now, instead of having a snake to plug their microphones into and run an analog snake, you can now just drop one of our X2Ps, connect your keyboards, your guitarist, your drummer, your loop playback guy, and even AM2s for your choir, and everything's on a single Ethernet cable going to a single switch or multiple switches, and you have a simple workflow that's easy to clean up your pit and to have access for all of your house of worship needs. In education, which is our largest market, this is done very well for us. We have some videos that I won't bother you with, but on our website, there's some great videos you can watch. But essentially at a school, you'll have multiple control rooms that might be connected to multiple buildings across campus, to stadiums, to theaters, that can all go to one central location off multiple switches and be able to organize and record anything, playback anything you need, with just the ability to just drop boxes where you need it. So in education, we've done very well, and especially in classrooms. You have a teacher that might have a Dante-enabled mixing console. She can have 16 or 20 or as many students as you have connected to one of our X2Ps on a network, connected to a laptop or an iMac or whatever they're using, and be able to listen to what each student's doing, or solo the vocalist with every person at a station, put it up on the speakers and embarrass them or praise them for what they've done. So it's changing how people are teaching at schools. One of the best examples I like to share is, traditionally at a school, when you need to do your final exam, you've got to book studio time, get into the studio, record some files, whether it's a band or someone speaking, then take it back to your classroom or wherever you are and do the voiceovers and do some editing and stuff. Now at these schools that have totally embraced the Dante network, they're able to just say, look on our calendar, see who's singing or performing anywhere on campus. Let me know, send me an email. I'll give you access. Like with my laptop, it's called Kurt Studio. I'd send it to my professor and say, hey, I want to record Johnny. He's in the coffee shop this week. There's a remote controllable Dante device there. I'll plug into it. I'm going to need 16 channels. I'll record all 16 into my free software, which we give, the DVS software with all of our interfaces, and record it right into my laptop, and now do all the editing I need to do. And I'm not limited by when the studio is available. I can literally access anything that I'm doing that's on the network at any time. That's changing how people are teaching, which is opening up a lot of opportunities in the teaching direction. The post-production is done great for us. When you're consulting a post facility where they're needing to do ADR or workflows, Dante has literally solved one of the major problems that all the post facilities had, which has to do with security. 4 or 5 years ago, Sony lost billions of dollars because many movies came out way ahead of time because someone broke into the network, hacked in, and just downloaded files. Now all the networks have to be secure. Dante Level 3 protocol gives you that security. You know who's online, who isn't online, and it gives you the ability to connect in post-production to a switch and have either what they call halos, which are just rooms that are isolated, or the ability to connect to all the facilities. So in post-production, you have Foley ADR. You've got multi-station workflows where they're connecting multiple S6s to the workflows. And then you have episodic TVs that are using surround sound editing, field recording where they're out recording using video capturing devices and remote controllable preamps. And it just gives you the idea that the post world is really growing. On our website, focusritepro.com, we have lots of case studies that if you have a client that you're going to meet with, find the case study that meets what you're doing and print it off or send it to your client and let them see exactly how Willow Creek set up, or how the Grand Ole Opry is using RedNet, or how the Foo Fighters used it, or how they did it at the Super Bowl. There's case studies that we are adding weekly to more and more case studies. And this really helps visually for your clients to understand what we're doing and how other people are using. And in many cases, you can email these facilities and say, hey, I'm looking at doing what you did at Formosa Group. What was all involved? And you'll either be talking to me or you'll be talking to someone at Formosa Group, and they'll explain how simple it was and how it changed things in their workflow and setup time. We've got a page here that's just showing some of the clients. I just stuck a bunch on here, from Jack White to Taylor Swift to Coachella, which just happened, to the Olympics, the ball drop in New York City, the Super Bowls, the schools that are using our facility. it's nearly to a point, if you aren't using RedNet and Focusrite Pro products, why? Because just about everybody is. We've been very successful, and it's very reliable. I have universities that have had systems up for 6 years that have never failed. North Texas State has been up for 3.5 years. It has never failed, knock on wood. But it's just a simple way to do things. The ball drop that you see at New Year's Eve every year in New York, 2 years ago, they banned copper. So everything has to be on fiber. Luckily, RedNet was the solution. And now, without having massive latency between blocks and blocks of audio being sent, it's now all near instantaneous. And with milliseconds of delay, the whole island's hearing the music, watching the ball drop at the same time. And it's been very good for us. In summary, I know this is about 28 minutes. I'm trying to not PowerPoint you guys to death, but it's audio over IP simplified. I've explained why Focusrite Pro has been very successful. It's future-proof in that you have a lot of different ways to connect. It's very powerful. The preamps are extremely clean with lots of headroom. It's compatible with SMPTE 2010, the AS67 protocol. DDM is coming out soon from us toward the end of the summer, and you'll be able to do submask protocol and AS70 with open source control is happening. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll let you guys turn your mics on and see if there's anything that anybody has for me. But thank you very much for your time, guys.
Oh, that's great, Kurt. Thank you very much. This has been great, and a few. I don't know if they're really questions as they are just kind of amplify on a couple of points here. We had a couple of folks write in and ask. You had mentioned DVS. This is the virtual sound card, I believe. But can you talk on that just a little bit and let folks know what the capabilities and limitations are there?
Sure. DVS is sold by Audinate. It's $30. But we give it to you for free with every time you register one of our products. What it gives you is the capability to record up to 64 channels directly into your laptop over an Ethernet cable. So if you have a Mac that doesn't have an Ethernet cable, you get a Thunderbolt adapter to Ethernet or USB adapter to Ethernet. You install this software in your computer, and now it becomes the driver, and it gives you 64 channels at 48K right into your laptop. Making it extremely good for transporting around and capturing audio.
Which means if you have a facility that is a Dante facility, you have recording capability wherever anybody has a computer, basically.
All you need is a DAW. Choose Reaper, anyone you want, and you have 64 channels that's coming right into your laptop.
Yeah, glad that one came up. That's another really great reason to build your core infrastructure around a Dante network. Well, then another term that was tossed out there was the domain manager, the DDM. Expound on that a little bit more, if you would, please.
So DDM is the new server-based software that Audinate is selling. It's subscription-based. It gives you the ability to do submask protocol, which is deep into the IT network. If you're consulting a large facility that has an IT department, this is what they want to see, because they want to be able to control different buildings with different IP addresses and change them and modify them in submasking. It's extremely deep into the IT world, and your IT department will love that you can do this. Our devices will all be compatible with DDM by the end of summer, actually sooner, probably right around Infocom. And it just adds another level of security when you're on a large facility. And understand, you don't need DDM unless you are at a large facility like a Microsoft or a Turner Broadcast, where you have hundreds of people connecting over different buildings. It does require some IT understanding. And one of the things I want to bring up, if you haven't taken level 1 or level 2 certification from Audinate, do yourself a favor and go to www.audinate.com, look under the training, and you'll see level 1 and level 2. Level 1, they're both free. Level 3 is available also, but level 1 and level 2 are easy to get through. Level 1 takes maybe 15 minutes with a coffee break. It'll give you a very, very good understanding of the verbiage and the terminology that's used and how workflow. Level 2 gets into some using multiple switches and some deeper understanding of Dante, but level 1 should be on everyone's list to take very quickly, and it really will give you a verbology. So in the DDM side, it just is much deeper, but it gives you extreme levels of security and expandability at a very deep level that's server-based, subscription based, as I said, and it's available for our products in the next couple months.
Yeah, basically that's a why wouldn't you do that? If you're a contractor involved with this, or someone who's doing specifications or working with customers, absolutely you want to tell them that you've done that, but beyond that, you're going to want to do it anyway. I did it. I'm one of the trainers here. All the trainers here are involved in that, and one of the trainers has been through level 3. It answers a lot of questions. It's very interesting, and certainly it gives you the confidence at that point to talk to customers at a deeper level and really help answer their questions and meet their needs. So yeah, that's a
Mhm.
great thing. So here's
Great.
a question that's along the lines of, in fact, to see if I can, yeah, I'll combine two into one here. We'll do it that way.
Okay.
We had a question about TV trucks and basically the interface between the RedNet products and then the Dante network, and basically what is expected today or what's commonplace in
Cool.
TV trucks. But then also a question about AES-67, which is also a broadcast question, since the
Okay. Cool.
broadcasters are very much focused on AES-67. So let's wrap both of those into the interface to the broadcast world and
Cool.
AES-67. What are the commonalities?
Excellent. So essentially, in the last 2 years, the broadcast world, which is kind of the last domain to really get into Dante, because it had been very focused on AES 67, has changed. And as I've visited some of the large broadcast facilities, and as we have sold lots of gear into broadcast facilities, uh, that has become kind of the common place to connect all your facilities. With concern to mobile trucks, we're rocking there. It's these trucks pull up to facilities. They have full recording capabilities. They might have a Lavo desk. They might have a Pro Tools system. They're replacing so much of their analog gear with RedNet systems that it's kind of become the norm. As far as AES 67, all of our devices speak AES 67. So if you have a console that only sees AES 67 and doesn't have maybe a MADI card or doesn't have a Dante card, you can plug in any of our devices. It will convert AES 67 to Dante. Now you have all the flexibilities of the Dante for cost control, for distance control, that you can connect all these different manufacturers, hopefully Focusrite Pro, to these devices and have this connectivity. Think of AS67 and Dante as just translation. You speak French, I speak German. It translates so that we can see each other's audio files. That's all it does. So at 48K, you can see all of the audio files that are going back and forth between an AS67 console or a device and a Dante device, and then have all the flexibility and control that Dante Control gives you to expand your systems and to have connectivity. It's I can say that I'm not allowed to say which broadcasters use this, but I can only think of one that doesn't. We are all over the major broadcast facilities, and it has just become the norm for connecting communication systems, whether it's a wireless system or whether they're connecting an intercom system or whether they're just transferring files from a live broadcast to a recording domain. It has just become the standard, and it has totally taken off in the last, I'd say, 9 months.
And certainly, as you mentioned, you alluded to the fact that in the future we're also going to see some integration of video into the Dante network. So that's just going to make it run wild. I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities.
It really does. AVB, when it originally came out, I'll say something positive about AVB. When it originally came out, it promised to do audio and video on the same network. It never delivered the video. That's the problem. But it was the right idea. So now, after years of working on the video solution, Audinate is coming out with an AV card that will take care of some compressed audio just for monitoring. But it's still coming out in 6 months. But it is going to be the solution so that you can have lots of videos feeds coming in and handle all of your audio on the same network or in separate Dante networks because of the compression and the size of uncompressed audio, video, and stuff. So it is now. It isn't the future, guys. It is happening everywhere. So if you haven't gotten into Dante, do some quick studying. I think you'll be surprised at how accessible it is for you.
Kurt, that sounds like a good place to wrap it up. That's those are the questions that came in, but I think we covered the topic pretty thoroughly today. I appreciate that. Always learn something from these, and certainly my thanks to you and all the people from FTW. Want to thank you for your involvement in this. But a couple reminders, folks, please, before you check out, do take the survey. We appreciate that. Your suggestions help us make better webinars in the future, and also the fact that this is recorded and up on the website should be of value to you and your associates. So take advantage of that. Pass the word that these are there. In fact, all the webinars are. So if you saw one in a previous time, that should be up on our website as all. Unless we have technical difficulties, they all get recorded and placed up on the website. So, Kurt, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. These generally do involve some follow-up questions that come from customers who have watched this, and if they go over my head, I'll certainly be in contact with you. We'll get good answers for folks.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you, Kurt. And that concludes our webinar for today.